Hi, everyone. I'm Kristy Edwards. I am so thrilled to be here today with you all. I am the co-founder and chief product officer of a stealth data privacy tech startup. And I am here to talk to you today about something I'm really passionate about, which is where security meets privacy tech. My career has really been at the intersection of these two amazing fields. So I'm super excited to talk to you guys about it today. And actually, before I dive in, I want to make sure that I welcome everyone here this morning and just give a special thank you to CyberSN, to Lookout, Secure Diversity, and then all of the sponsors and volunteers and every single one of the participants. So I'm going to start by looking at some of the cool things that I've had the honor of experiencing in the past many years on both sides of it, because as I said, I've been at this intersection of cybersecurity and privacy almost my whole career. So I started out my security journey, really started out when I was at Oracle. I was a product manager. And I got to product manage the network security option and then the actual security controls of the Oracle database. And so I was working, within development, doing things like setting up network sniffers to demo that we could see sensitive data flowing over unencrypted networks. My teams built fine-grained access controls and public key infrastructure solutions. I handled incident response on the very first buffer overflow in the Oracle authentication protocol. That's when I learned to take vacation over Christmas to New Year's week, because if you're the only person around on the security team, you're the person who gets to lead IR. But then I had this amazing opportunity that I've really been thinking a lot about today, which is when development was asked if somebody wanted to come in, who wanted to come in to figure out Oracle's, this huge global company, Oracle's positioning on privacy. And I put my hand up. I was so excited. I couldn't believe that nobody else wanted to do it. And so I got to do this amazing project. And then that led to my first job in privacy as Oracle's first FTE, full-time employee, doing privacy. This was right when California 1386, the breach reporting law, came out, and then lots of other states followed afterwards. And talk about being at the intersection of security and privacy. I was reporting into the head of information security, global information security for Oracle. And then I had a dotted line to the chief privacy officer, chief privacy strategist. And that's really, I was in that role for probably 6 or 7 years. It expanded. But I got to do such cool things. I built out this global team. I got to advise lawmakers and regulators in Europe and in the US and other countries around the world about cybersecurity and data privacy. I then got to, actually at that time, just like kind of for a marker in security history, this was right around when I left, actually. It was right around when FireEye's APT1 report came out, which was really the first time that Western companies and governments let the public know what was going on in terms of nation-state cyber attacks against one another. So, and so that's when I kind of got to come out a little bit with some of the work that we had been doing for Oracle and for our customers, because I actually got some security responsibility added back in addition to running the privacy, the global privacy program. I then went over to McKesson to do something that was had a very cool name, is privacy innovation. So I got to work within healthcare, but figure out not just HIPAA compliance, but really strategically, how do we make the most of the vast data that we had without but building and innovating with privacy there at the core. It was before there was such a field as privacy engineering, but you'll hear about that in a second. And then I went back into information security with Workday when they're one of the first companies to really grow and become known for hosting PII, personally identifiable information, and human resources information in the cloud. So security was super strategic to them. So I got to build a team there, like a 12 to 15 person team there. And then a couple other things happened, but that's when I got to join Lookout, where I was the security engines product manager. I was responsible for Lookout's static and dynamic analysis tool set in the cloud, as well as the threat intelligence platform for our security researchers. And little plug, you're going to hear from two of them today. Kristen Del Rosso and Christiana Balam are going to talk you through, I think, reverse engineering malware, which is, I mean, what cooler topic is there than that? But then there also, we're combating nation state and APT actors, advanced persistent threat actors. We've been doing it for years, but this is the first time that we really got to make a lot of it so publicly known. And then after a short career break and a short stint at another privacy tech company, I am now the proud co-founder and chief product officer for a stealth privacy tech startup, which I hope to be able to tell you more about maybe at the next day of security. So along the way, I've just, very quickly I thought that it'd be interesting to talk about a couple of the cool things that have happened. I became the co-inventor on a couple of patents. That's in database security. Picked up some cool awards and recognition over the years, along with my teams often. And shout out to other, if there are any cybersecurity divas here today. I think that's one of the coolest bits of recognition that I've known. And some of my team's successes have been covered in the press, articles on data breaches, on stalkerware, and on Pegasus. I was part of Lookout's team that discovered nation-state actors who were exploiting. There were actually 3 zero-day exploits in iOS and WebKit that they were using these 0 days to tacitly install Pegasus surveillanceware, which completely weaponizes victims' iPhones. We also then discovered it on Android, working with the Google security team as well, the Android security team at Google. So anyway, these types of opportunities, there's so many opportunities out there because there are so many bad guys out there, right? There's so much to fight. So that's really, what keeps it interesting. So let me talk to you about some of the shifts that are happening around privacy today, and in particular, privacy technology. So I'm sure all of you have heard of GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation in Europe, which is affecting companies all over the world, as well as California consumer protection laws. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about laws. I really want to talk about some of these shifts that are happening in our industry and in our world here, and specifically not so much privacy law, that's the background, but really what's happening at the privacy technology layer, if you will. So you've probably seen some fighting between Apple and Facebook. iOS 14.5, which is due out in the next few months. I just saw there's an iOS update today, so make sure you guys install the update. But iOS 14.5 is going to introduce something called app tracking transparency, where iOS is going to is requiring actually that all apps ask explicitly for permission to track you. And if you're going to share those identifiers, those unique identifiers with other companies to track users across apps and websites, you're going to have to prompt people. So if you ever wonder about whether like end users, your cousins, people around the world care about privacy, well, here's the amazing thing. Facebook is fighting it. This little thing, just asking, can I track you? Can I track you across sites? Facebook is now saying that they expect to see a 50% or more drop in its advertising business because of these privacy changes. I've seen estimates between like a 7% drop in a single quarter up to a 60% drop in income. This is, I mean, I just think it's so emblematic because it shows you where you give users a little transparency. You tell them what you're doing with their data, and you start to see how they act, how they react. And Tim Cook, in response in late January on Data Privacy Day, called privacy right alongside climate change the top issue, one of the two top issues of the century. So this is really, this is what I'm saying, like, these are tectonic shifts in this world that we're living in right now. So thinking about data privacy, just a couple of slides to give you a little bit more background on data privacy and the regulatory environment that we're operating within. So there are 66% of countries around the world have some type of privacy or data protection legislation. That's a lot. I didn't calculate this. The UN has this on their website. That calculates to 204 countries around the world. Every law in every region is really quite unique. They have different pieces of it, but many of them are based on this idea from a UN Human Rights Declaration in 1948. That privacy is a fundamental human right. We've more recently seen regulations like the California Consumer Privacy Act. I mentioned the GDPR. There's also the California Privacy Rights Act, state breach laws, those laws really around the world. But a lot of them boil down to these 8 fair information practice principles. And I won't go into the detail here, but you can really see kind of the areas that privacy law is all really based on. And you'll see there's just one piece of it, the security safeguards piece. That's just one piece of it, but it's such an important intersection, really. So this is actually from the EU's site on what personal data is. So I'm just going to flash this up here for you without taking too much time talking about it, but it is guidance from really among the world's authorities on data protection. And just give you a second to think about that intersection between cybersecurity and privacy, and really, like I said, where I've spent a lot of time. I think it's much broader than what this is from NIST actually. Then they say, these are cybersecurity related privacy events. I think I've talked a little bit about all the places that they intersect, and I could go on all day talking about it. But really, I want to spend just the next few minutes talking with you about the world of privacy technology, because this is where I think it gets really exciting. So as you know, I'm at an early stage startup. We are not the only startup in privacy tech. There are a number of companies who are early stage. They're at seed fundraising stage, Series A, B. We've got Series C. Big ID closed a $50 million Series C round in late 2019, creating OneTrust and Big ID are the two unicorns in privacy tech. So over $1 billion valuation. We Firewheel, which is a point solution within privacy tech for DSARs. I'll talk about in just a second. They raised $63 million total fundraising round, with all their fundraising rounds after a $20 million Series B. There are players, let me go on and talk to you a little bit more and show you some visuals about some of the areas that that privacy tech encompasses. So you've got anonymization players, you've got people who are doing data masking. We have, there's a different category, but it's adjacent, which is GRC, which I think maybe going back, 5-10 years, that looked like that might become a dominant place. But here's really what we're seeing is it's not just compliance tools. It's not just moving you from, spreadsheets into an app like a cloud hosted or an on-prem application. There are all these different areas like cookie management systems, like scanning all of your assets, looking for PII and inventorying it and cataloging it so that you can then put the right security controls in place and put the right privacy controls in place. I really love this this view of it. This is from Bessemer Venture, who has made a lot of investments in privacy technologies. I think they do a really beautiful job, and I'll let you take a second to look at this, really defining the different areas of privacy tech. You'll see there's like things like over here, secure enclaves, people like Evervault and Skyflow. I talked about some of like data masking and anonymization solutions, cookie management, SAR management or DSARs, which stand for subject access requests. So this is where you as an individual have the right per data privacy laws, especially the GDPR, to receive a copy of the your personal data that a company has, and you can make your request, verbally. You can make it in writing. You can make it during social media. But the point is, there are solutions now and companies being built around, like Wirewheel, being built around that requirement, that single requirement across privacy laws. So now let's take a look at what I see, and I think some others may also see as we look into the future. So I'm going to project a little bit here. So I see the emergence of privacy tech, as I've told you, but Deirdre just talked about how CyberSN has, I think it's 45 security job categories. 3 of them, I checked the other day, 3 of them are privacy specific. But I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to project that you're going to see like a dozen privacy tech job categories in 3 to 5 years. So one of those areas certainly is privacy engineering, and that's really something that's been brewing over the last 5 or 6 years. Privacy engineering provides methodologies, tools, and techniques to ensure that that systems provide an acceptable level of privacy. That's kind of the dictionary or Wikipedia definition of it. This really came about with Ann Cavoukian, who's a very well-known and super smart privacy commissioner from Ontario. It was one of the first people to really start driving this idea, even back when I was at Oracle in like 2010, 2012 kind of time frame. I was actually writing privacy by design guidelines and working with development teams and deployment teams to build privacy into their SDLCs, their secure software development life cycles. And you've seen more books come out on the topic, more jobs being created in privacy engineering. This one is my favorite, the Privacy Engineers Manifesto. This is written by my good friend and co-founder, Michelle Dennedy, a much more frequent keynote speaker than myself, and just a dear and a dear friend. But she and a couple of others have really defined this area of privacy engineering. And then there are companies who are really investing, who have, a small team, some larger companies, like Google, for example, has a huge team. I think it's like 80 plus people or more at this point who are in privacy engineering roles. I think it's important, though, to think about, again, privacy not just as a compliance thing, but as a really innovative area that we can be putting our skills into. And I think it's good to start thinking about some of those security skills that you all are talking about and thinking about today, developing, and we'll start to look at how those can also set you up for great privacy jobs in the future as this area really grows and grows. So look at this. I just found this the other day. Look at this super cool privacy job, privacy tech job. Just highlighted some of the skill sets in this job at Mozilla. They're not accepting new applications now, but this is in differential privacy, being a researcher. Look at all these skills it calls for. Look at how relevant these are to the skills that many of you have, many of you are learning more about today, and will go on to pursue careers in. So lastly, I want to talk about, as we look at the emergence of privacy technology, I want to look at where we are today and where I think that we're really going. So there's a professor, I think she's at Harvard, Shoshana Zuboff. She wrote a book in 2019 and has been really at the core of this idea of our current system being based on surveillance capitalism, which is the economic system that she's called out, that's really centered around the commodification of personal data for profit making. So this idea came from observing companies like Google with their AdWords, who've profited immensely by using our personal data to better target customers more and more and more precisely. It calls out business models of companies like Amazon and Google, who represent this shift in our society towards what she calls surveillance capitalism. And there are even phenomena, this isn't necessarily something covered in the book, but things like Pokemon Go, the game that tracks your location for fun and profit. That's really another example of surveillance capitalism in action. But as we look forward to the future, I, along with some other thought leaders in the field, really believe that we can shift to more of a consent-based capitalism. And that's what a lot of the regulation is really about, right? It's about the individual having control over how our data is used. So there's still tons of room for profit, tons of room for personalization, and so much room for innovation. But it's a voluntary exchange of information. So with this shift, just think of the opportunities for tech products that can support the societal shift. Think of how that Bessemer privacy tech landscape, as well as security tech, can really grow and expand as we have these huge monumental shifts in our entire economies. It's not going to happen fast, but I think we can have a future in which it happens, and we can build the next generation of technology products that enable that shift. So I'll just really finish up here to tie it all back together. I want you to think about if privacy technology seems cool and interesting, and I think it is, today and going forward, I think it's important to think about a lot of these transferable skills. So I kind of noted here some of the skills that are so important to have around as we're looking at building out, as I'm looking at hiring out, as we get our funding and as we really grow out our currently stealth mode privacy tech company, at how we build out our staff, right? So hands-on experience, operational experience, development and IT experience is so critical. A couple of areas, the more that you know about the IT stack, about cloud, about AppSec, application security, data scientist and stats, like that super cool Mozilla job. These are all skills that are transferable into jobs in privacy tech. So I'd say in general, just the more time you can concentrate on hands-on and technical work, the better. That includes, doing some programming on your own. I just had, a little break after Lookout and before I joined this startup and co-founded this startup, when I was doing Java programming, not a lot of it. And I'll tell you, it's not, my number one skill set. But I think even, when you get old like me and you're looking at big picture things, I think it's really important to continue to do as much hands-on work as you can and make sure you're really understanding, the tech stack, especially as we move into new areas like cloud and mobile and so on. Work that you've done or you get the opportunity to do in security operations centers and SOCs or in NOCs are super important. But I think the best preparation is really just following that curiosity that we all have in us and raising your hand when new opportunities come up, like I did, when way back when it turned out to be the chief privacy officer at Oracle at the time came into development and said, hey, who wants to help us figure out, or who really wants to lead on figuring out what privacy means to Oracle and to our tech stack and to our product positioning? And I'm like, me? So who knew that it would lead to all this cool stuff that I've had the opportunity to do? And I'm just so grateful for all of it. And I'm so grateful to be able to be here today with you all. And thank you so much for your time and attention. If you'd like to get in touch and learn more, get some resources, here's some of my contact information here. Contact me at, by email I have here, LinkedIn, Twitter, Slack, just get in touch. And everyone, I want you to have an awesome day at Day of Security. Thank you so much.